I got money on my mind. I'm just trying to get some dough. I ain't picking up my line unless it's money on the phone.
I mean, what really comes to mind is humble, right? Because you gotta, especially when you're starting out and you don't have the leverage points, right? You don't have reviews, you don't have word of mouth, you don't really have pictures, maybe. You don't know what you're doing, right? Straight up. So you don't have the leverage to be out here with an attitude and demanding different things and all of that. So, humility comes to mind because there's a lot of situations where I was entering the unknown, so I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And there was a lot of situations, whether it's with my team or with a customer, where I had just never been in that situation. And there was so many times where I could have fought back, got an attitude, went at them, you know what I mean, and stood my ground, so to speak. But my mindset was always my business is bigger than this person. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna let this person have his day. He gonna be mad. He or she gonna be mad. And it ain't like I'm trying to say I was out here screwing up all the time, but there was definitely incidents, right? So, um, yeah, I just had to deal with those things and know how to. Cause like when I'm an employee for somebody else, I could get an attitude and not really worry about the repercussions, so to speak. You know what I mean? I got to talk to my manager, but everything's okay after that. But when it's my business, they leave a 0, 1-star review. I might not get those jobs next week that were going to come. So I was always just thinking the bigger picture, not trying to get bogged down by the day to day. Um, and even with what I was doing, because I was doing moves and cleans, right? Like, it's not pretty. Um, and that's coming from an office job. So that's coming from corporate world to now straight labor. You know what I mean? So my mindset really was just locked in and bigger picture all the time. Even when I was doing this job that I maybe didn't want to do that day, and I was like, man, 2 months ago I was sitting in the office like, what am I doing right now? I just kept thinking like, all right, but I own this. You know what I mean? This is mine. Um, One day it's all gonna be worth it. One day it's all gonna be worth it. I just kept telling myself that. Um, and yeah, I mean, and I think that's the mindset you gotta have when you're starting out. Um, because it's just you gotta be willing to accept the ugly straight up. And that's not like saying that I was losing money and that I was out here stressing and everything. It was just every day was something new. Straight up, every day was something new. I went from a life where Monday through Friday was the same thing every week. I knew what to expect. I knew what was going on. And then Saturday and Sunday, same routine. I would, watch football. I would chill with the homies. I would be with my girl. So I went from that structure to just every day was something new. And I mean, and I loved it at the same time as while it was a bit of a struggle, I still loved it. And that also let me know, keep going. That let me know I was on the right path because I felt like I was in a lot of situations where other people would have just quit and been like, all right, man, I got this accounting degree. Let me stop playing with y'all. Um, but my mindset was just always bigger picture. Like, it's all good. Like, I was kept telling myself one day I'm gonna have this huge moving company. And like, if I wanted to right now, I still probably could go down that path. But like I was telling y'all, I'm to the point now where I can more pick and choose what I want to do. So I don't need to be breaking my back because we got Airbnb that's covering the mortgage and different things like that. So my back ain't up against the wall like it used to be. But your back has to be up against the wall when you start. That's just a part of it.
Hey
I
man,
love it.
you just
I
touched
love
on
it.
some part, and I like how you said, my business is bigger than this small issue or whatever is going on with this certain customer. And
Right.
I know that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs, whenever they first starting off, they do have that arrogance sometimes towards them, like, oh, I don't need your business, I don't need you, you could go on or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Where while it is important to pick and choose who your customers and clients are, but once you've committed and that person has made that transaction with you, you need to understand that, hey, my duty now is to make sure that this person is happy with my service and my business, because now this is my livelihood. And I'm glad that you touched on that, because that's an important part that a lot of people overlook. A lot of people just want to say, I'm self-made, I don't need this, this is my business.
Right. And I like that you touched on the ego, because I mean, I definitely had an ego. I mean, I was just like, yo, I just quit my job and I got my own business. You know what I'm saying? I'm walking around like this. So yeah, when I wasn't on the job, when I wasn't dealing with annoying people, you know, I definitely was walking around like that, ego to the ceiling. But you know, you got to pick and choose, and that's not even with entrepreneurship. That's with everything. You got to know when to turn the ego on, when to turn it off. You got to know when to ask a question and say, "Yeah, I just don't really know what you're talking about," or when to be the loudest in the room sometimes. So, yeah, I mean that concept is definitely key. And yeah, I'm gonna let you keep going.
One thing I did want to touch on that I like really appreciated from your story was the fact that you started in an industry that it was just kind of like the big transition, number one, and then number two, the fact that you didn't want to stay there, and so you knew and you moved. So like the first thing being like with you leaving an accounting office, like you said, I was sitting in the office. I'm in the AC, I'm chilling.
Right.
Like I've moved people before, you know what I'm saying? Like my pops was an 18-wheel driver, and that was what we primarily had to do was move people and then load them up in the truck. Bro, you are up flights of stairs. It is hot. You are breaking your back, like you said, you know what I'm saying? So you went from this really kind of chilling situation. I got my set income to like, all right, cool. I'm finna transition to something harder. I'm gonna push through it. You know what I'm saying? It's not always easy. I'm gonna push through it, but then at the end of it, you were like, okay, cool. Now that it's giving me the bread to be able to have more options, I can transition out of this. And I think that's really crucial for a lot of people to understand, because so many people be thinking like, oh, if I start this business, I'm stuck in that. That's the only thing I can do. Or they act like this first business is the end all be all. It's like, bro,
right.
It's not. Like you can move, like you can transition.
I mean, and that's important with a lot. So I'll be doing a lot of random research, and there was I read somewhere where it was like Karl Marx basically said like you shouldn't be your occupation, right? Like just because you are a mechanic don't mean that's what you got to do all the time. That don't mean that is what your life is, blah blah blah, right? So even my move from the accounting to the blue collar world was just like, yeah, I'm still an accountant, but that don't mean I have to go sit in an office and apply my degree. I can go do something else and then still be an accountant for myself, for other people. Like the accounting ain't going anywhere. And it bottom line, it shaped my mindset since I was 20 years old. So like no matter what I do now, I still got the accounting going. But yeah, I mean I try to do a lot of different things, like straight up. And then, you know, everybody be like, you know, pick one and master it. And I'm not trying to say like that's wrong or nothing, you know what I mean? But I'm trying to see as much as I can do and then find a point where I'm like, all right, I like doing this more. Let me rock with that. Or this gets me more money. Let me rock with that. But yeah, I mean, it's and I'm not definitely not to a point of like super freedom or anything like that at all. But I'm definitely to a higher point of freedom than I was 3 years ago when I started. So that part feels good, but it's still a lot more work to be done.
And I do want to ask you about the transition, like with going into the next thing that you actually wanted to do, because like we talked off air and you said that was actually what you wanted to do. What led you into getting into real estate, and like what was your first deal like?
So honestly, it's my girl, right? Her family it kind of comes from a property manager background. Her granddad was really big in the community, so she was all about real estate and properties and all of this. I was more of a saver and then transitioned to a stock guy in crypto, obviously. But she always had the real estate going. So honestly, she found this duplex, right? Because she basically, and this is what I tell people when they ask me like, when they want to get into real estate and stuff, I tell them like, yo, you gotta You gotta be on Zillow like you be on Twitter, or you gotta be on Redfin like you be on Facebook. You know what I mean? Because that's what she does. So I ain't trying to take none of her credit right now. That's what she does. She be on it tough. So she actually found the duplex that we got, and from there it kind of blossomed into me realizing I had a whole bunch of skills I didn't even know I had, because it was a fixer upper, but it wasn't in like terrible condition. It was just, it needed a good amount of work to be brought up to, the 21st century. So I accepted it as a challenge. I was like, all right, let's do it. Like we were listening to different podcasts and doing a whole bunch of research. She already had a condo too before we got together. So she on her shit, you know what I'm saying? Um, so my bad, excuse me. So she was already on that, and then we obviously wanted it to grow and get more and more properties. So we started doing research and bigger pockets podcasts, blacker pockets, different things. We was on whatever we could. So then we found this joint, and it was a bit of a risk, but it was of that mindset where it's like, all right, if we want to be in that realm, these are the risks that are gonna come. So got into the house, started fixing it up, demoing kitchens and doing tile work and replacing light fixtures and just like
This is you?
random. Yeah, me, right? That's what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
So, and my dad though, and I'll give him his credit. He is like A1 handyman. Like since I was tiny, he been the man with his hands, right? So, but I always took those skills for granted because I was like, nah, what? I'm gonna be a college boy. Like I don't need to learn that stuff, like dumb mindset. So, but I learned enough from him as a kid to kind of learn how to apply my hands and tools and certain things. So I had the foundation, right? Um, but yeah, we get this house. I start working on it, doing stuff that I've never done before. And again, this is my mindset where I'm like, let's do it. Let's take on new challenges, especially high rewarding income rewarding, big valuable producing risks and challenges. I was like, yeah, let's take them. So my dad helped a couple of times. He came up, but I did most of the work on that side. Then we got it listed as an Airbnb. We were actually gonna rent it out like standard lease, but we just kept getting like weird coming by, and it just wasn't good vibes. We actually had a pedophile, like convicted. um,
Oh,
yeah, he was on the registry and everything, right? Him and his wife came and looked at it. They were ready to move in. We were excited, and then we Googled them, and we were like, "Oh nah, no sir." So like, it was just different things like that, and then we kept thinking about Airbnb, and we're like, let's do it. So, man, we started our list in February last year. So literally when COVID was like at the peak type of thing. So that's just another one of those like risky situations, crazy challenges that most people would probably be real scared of and probably run back to, oh, let me go get the regular lease. But man, we stuck with the Airbnb, paid off like crazy. And then we taken that cash flow, moved to the next one. So then now this one is the next one's gonna require way more work than this one. So I'm kind of stepping it up now. So I'm like, let's see if I can handle that challenge. So yeah, I mean, and then my plan from there, once we finish this one, probably Airbnb that one too. Um, and then keep it going, get another one, keep this train rolling, man, because the real estate is essentially what I want to be our retirement plan. I want, obviously I'm investing and I got my portfolio, but I want to be able to sit back on a huge real estate portfolio and know I'm always good, know the family's always good, and have leverage to actually be able to help people. Like I'd love to, help single moms and different things with cheaper rent for a year or two, different, help them get on their feet. I can't do that yet. We only got 4 doors, but one day, we got big plans. But yeah, I don't know if that answered the question.
Nah, that answers it perfectly, bro. And
Yeah.
I kind of want to just like, I love the way that you're value focused. Like you said, you know, you just want to help people out. And I kind of want to get a little bit deeper just into the Airbnb, because I know that's a topic that we really didn't too much dive in on.
Yeah.
That you're a super host. You became a super host during the pandemic.
During the pandemic.
What are some things that you learned from Airbnb while Airbnb, and what made you guys successful enough to become super hosts during the pandemic?
Yeah, for sure. Good question. I mean, and this is it's a vague answer, and I can get into more details, I guess. But like, honestly, running my own business for those 2 years or whatever it was like an easy transition, because I had already known I learned how to message with people. You know, I learned what to say. I learned how to have a perfectly detailed page that hits on the highlights of what we offer and what they need. So like, I applied everything that I learned from running my other business to this one, so it was perfect. But I mean, really, communication is key, right? Like even like I was saying earlier with the humility, we got people that try to check us, and you deal with a lot of crazy people as an entrepreneur, especially when you start branching off into more. So like, there's been a lot of situations where we just gotta be humble and just be like, all right, man, you got it. Because at the end of the day, like, the way I look at it when I'm starting a business is the reviews matter more than the profit margin, right? Like, we need to get the reviews before we can really apply the pressure on the price. So if that means sometimes just, you know, swallowing your tongue and then conceding, or, you know, going and getting them an extra towel just so that, you know, they'll shut up, like, I would do it. I'm fine with it. And it helped that we were house hacking, right? So we lived right next door to the joint. So any issues came up or anything, you know, I'm right there, no problem. But honestly, I mean, customer service was key. Like I said, the communication and all of that. Cleanliness, obviously, very key. And as like I told you, I'm a very clean person, and I already had cleaning business with the supplies and connects. So, you know, that was easy to make sure it's really clean. But other than that, I mean, honestly, it's not too much to it. You just gotta supply the place and make sure you got a whole bunch of sheets and towels ready, and be as cordial as possible. You just gotta remember that you're in the tourism and hospitality business, right? And that hospitality part is real key. Like, just because you're not a hotel, but you gotta act like you are. So like, you just always gotta, the guest happiness comes first. Same way I would try to treat my moving customer or my cleaning customer happy. I'm gonna make sure that when this person leaves, they want to leave with a 5-star review. And this is something I'll say that's key: knowing how to troubleshoot things, right? So like, I always send, when people leave, right, the message I send them is like, you know, thanks for the stay. Thanks for, if they're clean, I'll be like, thanks for keeping it so clean. We hope you found it 5-star worthy. If you didn't, we would appreciate private feedback, right? So that way it lets them know, like, all right, don't go be an asshole, right? Like, look, we people here, we understand if there was an issue, just let us know. You don't got to go blast us. And I mean, we had 35 reviews with 5-star average, straight up. Like, we don't get nothing below a 5-star. I mean, obviously it's because our place is nice and we furnished it nice, and we make sure, I mean, they got dishes, coffee maker, all this simple stuff, you know, but it's easy to overlook those things. You got to make sure that they're there. But yeah, I mean, the place is nice, place is clean, and we present ourselves as very nice and hospitable people, and it works out.
I got money on my mind, I'm just trying to get some dough. I ain't picking up my line unless it's money on the phone.